There are times when you're going to want to spend ages and ages working on a single image, retouching it and adjusting it until your heart's content. But there are other times when you just need to get the job done quickly. And I want to show you the easiest way to make your image look great with just 3 sliders in about 10 seconds or less. Inside the Photo Enhancements folder, you'll find another one called Fix an Image and Making It Pop. And inside of that, an album called Original. That's where we'll be working. You'll see in here there are 4 different photos that we're going to work with. We're going to start with this one here, which as you can see is a bit on the dark side. Let's go to the viewer view so that we're just looking at the viewer instead of the viewer and the browser, giving us a little bit more room for that image on the screen. From the Adjustments tab, all the sliders that I want to work with are inside of the exposure controls. You'll see that we have an exposure slider, a recovery slider, black point, and brightness. We're actually going to ignore brightness. The 3 that I want to work with are exposure, recovery, and black point. Now keep in mind, we want to keep an eye on the histogram itself while we're working with the image, not just look at the photo. We do really want to look at both at the same time. So let's get started. I'll take the exposure slider to begin with and drag this up to make it a bit brighter. And as I drag that up to make it a bit brighter, if I go too high, it's very easy to get that image washed out and looking not very good. Now if I look at the histogram, this actually looks still technically accurate, but looking at the photo itself, it's just a little bit too washed out and bright, so that's not really great. Let's go ahead and bring that down just a bit. Take the exposure down to maybe somewhere right around there. Now, this particular image doesn't actually need the recovery slider, so we're going to fix this one with just 2. The next one is going to be the black point. If I take the black point slider and I drag that to the right, my darker areas or the shadows are going to get richer and darker in there. And very quickly, I create an image with increased contrast. The whole image looks great now, and if I just tap the M key to toggle back and forth, you can very easily compare the original image to the adjusted image and see how much better it looks. And that was just with 2 sliders. Let's pick another image. I'll use the right arrow key to go to the next photo. And let's go ahead and take the exposure on this one up a little bit as well. It's pretty easy to get too bright on this image. It was a bit dark and shadowy to begin with, but we do want this image to retain this kind of dark dusk feel to it. But I also want to take my black slider and just kind of drag that up just a little bit to make those dark shadows a little bit crunchier, a little bit darker. That looks pretty good with just 2 sliders. Let's go to the next one. Here we're going to take the exposure up again. Or actually should we be taking it down? What's the look that we want in here? Well, let's go for something right about there. I think that looks pretty good, just a little bit darker. And then I'll take my black point and slide that up and make the dark areas a bit darker. It's looking pretty good. But let's go ahead up here and turn on the highlight hot and cold areas. And what this is going to show me is that I have in fact blown out part of my image. I've made it a little bit too bright, or rather made it not dark enough. But if I make this image dark enough using the exposure slider so that the brightest part of the image is within range, you'll see that the rest of the shot just gets a little bit too dark. So let's bring that back up again. And this time take the recovery slider and drag that in. And as you can see, that's dragging detail back into the brightest spot of the image, making it all legal within printing range and showing the detail that I had in that shot to begin with. As you can see, we're looking at a bright cloud in there, but if you look closely, there is detail in there. So in this case, we used 3 sliders: exposure, recovery, and black point. And if we tap the M key to look at the original and go back to the adjusted one, you can see that it's a dramatic improvement. So again, very quickly and very easily, the exposure, recovery, and the black point is quite often all you really need. If you'd like to see some final results from these fixes, go over here to the second album called 3 Slider Fix. And within this, you'll see these same images, each one with 2 or 3 sliders at the most applied to it to make it look even better. And remember, at any point you can simply tap the M key to toggle the before and after to see the difference between the original and the adjusted image. And then by going to the Adjustments tab, you can see exactly what was applied to it, so you can reverse engineer the shot and see how it was done.